Hello and welcome everybody to a brand new episode of r/ProRevenge. My name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's top stories. Before I do, however, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button, as well as make sure you got notifications turned on, that way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. The first story comes to us from Axel RAFN, and it's 15 days old, titled, "Client Tried to Screw Me by Locking Me Out of My Own System." Edit. Since so many people assume this happened in the States, I just want to say that I'm from a small country in Europe. The laws and regulations here are different than in the States. We have a government agency here that has everything to do with registering companies, and they do keep track of who's who. If you're a serial startup guy who leaves nothing but burn ashes behind you, you cannot do it here. You have to register the owner and members of the board of the company if there is one. If you have a prior history of failed companies, or you've broken the law in some regard, you're blacklisted at that establishment. First post, so please be gentle with me. I've worked as an independent contractor in the IT field for over 20 years, doing all manner of things, from creating simple HTML sites to managing a big hotel's complete IT infrastructure. One of the many clients I had back in the day was coding a biggish custom website for a rental company. Now, I had heard a lot of warnings about not working with the guy that owned it. He had a reputation. He was sharp as a tack, backstabbing and conniving. He was a lawyer after all. So, I went into partnership with that in mind. He wanted a new website for his renting gig, where people would list their home for rent, renters would sign up and pay a subscription to the site, and he would get the whole lot. Nothing out of the ordinary there. So we make a pretty good deal on paper, we sign it, and I get started on the project. Coding everything in PHP goes well, but he demands suddenly that I show him progress only a week into the progress. My man wants to see the website front now. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So I tried explaining to him that the front-end work isn't scheduled to start until after 6 weeks of back-end programming, and that I only had pure code to show him right now. The contract we signed had clearly stated this. He then gets on his high horse and demands I put everything on hold to do the front-end first, design, and then program. I, being really young at the time, and fairly naive, agreed to do this without asking for it to be added to the contract as an addendum and start working on the design now. Now the contract stated that I was given free reign of the design decisions as long as I maintained the same color scheme and used the same logo on the site. So I make a fast draft in Fireworks. This was back when it was in a macro media product before the Adobe acquisition, and within 2 days I show him. He's not impressed and demands a different direction, and sets up a list of demands. I, as always, aim to please the customer and do just what he wants. I design a new layout with his list of demands, but he doesn't like that either. That's how the next 3 months go. A never-ending circle where he is never happy with anything. Now close to 4 months into the project, he demands to see a working showcase of the back end. I point out to him that he himself had changed the order on how the project was being done, and that he demanded I do the front-end design first instead of the back end as stated in the contract, which he now turns on me and says, "Yeah, but the contract we both signed says you still have a working back end to show me at the end of the month. If you don't honor that, I'll have to take my business elsewhere and seek compensation for your lack of professionalism, dude." Okay, I now have 12 days to do a backend for the site. So I get a friend to help me, and we work tirelessly through the weekend, and I have a good base to work with within the next 9 days. Mind you, at this point, he has only paid the security on the contract, about 5% of the total price, and has shielded himself from paying by hiding behind, "Well, if you can't honor the contract, why should I? Finish the work, and I'll pay you as per the contract, dude." Remember now all the warnings I had heard about this guy? I decided to add a special function to the code just to be safe. More on that later. Now it's the end of the month. We have a front-end design he's okay with, a back-end design that's been finished to about 85% of what's required, according to the contract, and I still have 1 month left to finish everything else. Time for show and tell. Since I was working on this development, I was running it on my own dev server, and showed him this in a browser on his computer. I mentioned to him that since I had only had a 512 kilobits upstream from the server, it might be a little laggy, but it wouldn't when he put it on a physical productional server that has his website at his hosting company. He says it's okay, and the demonstration goes on. As I'm showing him the site, both front end and back end, I can see he's immensely happy with it, although he would never say so out loud. He's trying to hide his smile that pops up regularly, and his eyes gleam with all the added ways he can now start making money. Anyway, he now says that it's way too slow, this is wrong, that is wrong, blah blah blah. I want you to put it on my production server so we could see how the speed is. Okay, no problem. I can make that happen. You just gotta pay 50% of the contract and I'll get right on it. Okay. I wait a few days, and then I get an email from him where he includes a forwarded message from the bank detailing a transaction from him to me to the amount of 50% as I asked. So I push the system to his production server so he can take a look at it under his beta domain TLD. I then send him an email stating that he can try the system with the supplied credentials. What he doesn't know is that I knew he had been fishing around for another programmer to do this project, to pick up from a lazy deadbeat who couldn't do anything right apparently. So I knew he would most likely try to screw me. What I also suspected was that the email he sent with the transaction proof was a fake, which it ended up being. ProRevenge number 1. Remember that small function I mentioned? Well, what I did was, if user X tries to remove user Y from the system, user X being him and user Y being me, the admin, well, if he were to try to remove me from the system without one setting being changed in the configuration first, the system will first delete and purge the database, and then remove all the documents in the web root. Well, not 5 minutes after he reads the email from me, he does just that. Tries to delete my admin user from the system to lock me out. Guess who has nothing of the project left? He does. ProRevenge 2. Since it's considered forgery to spoof an email, especially from the bank, I sent the information to the authorities and he goes under investigation by both the police and the bank lawyers. ProRevenge 3. I sold the system to a competitor of his for a better price than originally contracted to him, and last I knew he was now blacklisted from owning a company as well as he lost his rights to work as a lawyer. I only got that 5% he paid at the beginning, and for working for just over 5 months on this project, that's hardly anything, but the knowledge of his demise will keep my heart warm for the rest of my life. Our second story of the evening is from Billiam201. It's 1 month old, and it's called $10 and a Pencil. A post I made in another subreddit reminded me of this one. Enjoy. A few years ago, after changing jobs, I found myself in a new office with a new phone number. After some orientation, training, and other new hire stuff, I finally get to sit down and do the things. I get my voicemail and answering machine set up the email, and then the phone rings. Good morning, Railroad Engineering. Yeah? When can I take the GED test? Sorry, wrong number. Click. Rings again. Seriously, when can I take the GED test? Like I said, wrong number. Goodbye. This went on for weeks. 15 to 20 calls a day. People screaming at me for not being the adult learning center. One day, an epiphany. This isn't the adult learning center? Nope. Do you know the number? Checks Google. I did. This is the number on their website. Oh, really? A little Google of my own, and I dig up a few numbers and give them a call. They tell me that they don't maintain their website and that there's nothing they can do about it, and how it's not their problem. I'm just gonna have to deal with it. My favorite line of that conversation was, "What are you gonna do about it? I work for the state. You can't do poop. Bye-bye." And you can imagine that bye-bye just dripped with condensation that only hubris and decades of Karenhood can muster. Oh, hell no! Let's dance. The next day, good morning, Railroad. When can I take the GED test? We give that on request. It takes about an hour and a half. Come on down. Oh, awesome. How much is it? $10. Bring a pencil. We'll sharpen yours, but we can't supply 'em. Budget cuts, you know. No, I get it. See you in a bit. Take your time. They don't like me telling you this, but if you get here before we close, they have to give you the test. See you when you get here. Thanks, man. See you later. Now, for those of you who don't know, the GED test takes a whole damn day. It also usually costs upward of $100, depending on the state. In a state that I was living in and working at the time, it was around $200. As such, it was only offered at certain intervals. So, as I was telling dozens of people per day that it was $10, took 90 minutes, and was offered on request, I'm sure they were absolutely inundated with angry people with freshly sharpened number 2 pencils, waving their $10 bills around and demanding the test that the guy over the phone told them they could come in and take. Every morning, I checked the website to see if my number was still on there. I also took the liberty of crawling around and getting the phone number for some managers. I was happy to hand these out when people came back to complain that they hadn't been allowed to take the test. Head back down there, ask to speak to random director, and tell them that they called the number on the website, and this is what they were told. It took them about 6 more weeks to change the website. For some reason, all of the managers' numbers disappeared from the website as well. And there you have it, folks. The end of the epics! If you like these stories, be sure to leave a like, as well as subscribe with notifications turned on so you could stay up to date with all future videos. Did I tell you we upload every single day? Well, it's not true, but we try! As always, my name's Ryan, the voice behind Reddit Voice, the official host here on the channel, and I look forward to seeing you guys in tomorrow's video.